Illinois is going for 6 straight wins tomorrow in Evanston at their second home, Northwestern. They've won 2 straight since our last show, so we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Andrei Stojakovic and a few other things, so hit the like button. Let's go. This is From Beyond Champaign, episode 15, season 3. Illinois 13-3 in the Big, or 13-3 overall, and 4-1 in the Big Ten. Their one loss coming against Nebraska, that heartbreaker, back in December, I believe. And Illinois has not lost since that loss to Nebraska that so many people were so upset about. As I'm recording right now, they're hosting Oregon 16-0, coming off a loss or coming off a comeback win at Indiana. I think Vegas got it wrong when they were 10-point underdogs in Champaign. So I think the better Nebraska plays, the better it is for Illinois in terms of seeding and stuff like that. I was going through the schedule after Illinois' win over Iowa. I can't find a bad loss on Illinois' schedule right now. I mean, if you want to talk about performance, you can go back to the UConn game, and I think you can make a strong argument that, sure, you can make an argument that UConn's just better, or they've won 2 titles in the last 3 years, and Dan Hurley and all. You say all that stuff all you want. But if you go watch that game, Illinois missed a ton of layups. They had a bunch of wide open shots that they missed. And if you're gonna beat UConn, you gotta make shots. I think they shot like 30-some% in that game. And if Illinois shoots 40% in that game's at least close. And so when I think about worst games or worst performances of the season for Illinois, I think about the UConn game. You can make an argument about Alabama as well. They were great in the first half, the United Center. In the second half, they couldn't make a shot in the final, 12 minutes or whatever it was. And it was still close at the very end, despite everything that went wrong for them. They just could not pull it out. But other than those 2 games, and again, I strongly just think it's the UConn game, Illinois has played up to par. And in many ways, to this point, I believe they have exceeded expectations. Because Keaton Wagler is finding himself in the lottery now on people's big boards, which is just a mind-blowing thing to say, right? I think Zvonimir Ivasic has been a refreshing thing to see come off the bench. He has played so well, while his brother Tommy has not really played, at least consistently, well enough. Kylan has, I think, in a way, taken a step forward. I know the 3-point shooting is still a little bit of a struggle, but it's not 20% like it was last year. I think it's at least closer to 30% if it's still in the 20s. So it's somewhat of an improvement, but overall, I think he has really embraced that leadership role. I always talk about the second year jump for guys who transferred to Illinois, and I feel like Kylan has taken that Terrence Shannon Jr. jump. Is he as good as Terrence Shannon Jr. was at Illinois? No, but the point is he is as comfortable as you could be as a second year player in this program, and I think this is his team. He might not lead the team in scoring every single night, but he is a guy that, when you need someone to carry it to the promised land at the end of games, he is a guy who's not afraid to take those shots. And he showed that at Iowa on Sunday. And so when I bring up those 3 things, David Mirkovic also, I had high hopes. I had high expectations for him, me personally, but did anyone think he'd be as good as he's been? He's had a few bad games. He's a freshman, but I think that he has performed better than what a lot of us expected. And then Andrei Stojakovic, who I want to talk a little bit more about in the middle of the show. he's scoring less, but he's making winning plays, in my opinion. And he knows his role and he embraces his role. And I think that he is just a winning player. He's shown that so far this year. So I can keep naming guys, but then I can go into the process of how much depth this team has, you know? Like I'm still complaining about not seeing more Mihailo Petrovic, you know, like am I a little afraid he might transfer now because of his role? Perhaps. Maybe it shouldn't matter because every time someone transfers, Brad just goes and finds someone, you know? Yeah, Morez Johnson's having an insane year with Michigan. Do I really miss him with what we're watching from Illinois right now? Not really. I know Michigan's ranked higher. I know Michigan, has looked unstoppable, has scored 100 points in so many games. It takes two hands to count, but I'll still take this team against Dusty May and that crew in February or whenever that game is. Like, if Wisconsin can go into Michigan and win, you can beat Michigan. However, whenever those two teams play, take the over, right? Like, holy shit, both these offenses are really fun to watch. So I say all these things. They've won 5 in a row, and, I'm optimistic. I got the Delulu going in the veins, and as we speak right now, I'm coming off like the best 72 hours of my sports fandom the last 10 years. I got the Bears beating the Packers on Saturday. Then you give me Illinois beating Iowa on the road in an 11 a.m. tip on Sunday. That's just icing on the cake. Oh, but wait, Aaron Rodgers throws a pick six his last throw of his career, and he loses a home playoff game on prime time. Oh, man. I'm coming off one of the best 3-day stretches of my life, brother. All right. So, yes, the Delulu is flowing through my veins. Do I think this team is perfect? No. Do I think that this team doesn't have flaws? No. They have some flaws, absolutely. And there's still a lot of growth. But I will say, since the last time we talked on this YouTube channel, Illinois, I think, has taken some steps forward in terms of growth. I don't think they've taken any steps back. And, they beat Rutgers, whatever. Rutgers, I don't have anything to say about that game other than I think Rutgers is the worst team in college, or not college basketball, but in the Big Ten. I can't think of a team that's worse based off what I have watched. Rutgers is ass. Okay. So that's all I really have to say about that. Illinois takes care of business at home, win by 20 plus points. I think it was almost 30 points they won by. And then you got a couple of days off. You go into a Sunday 11 a.m. tip in Iowa City against a rival. And we've talked about this in joking a lot. These 11 a.m. tips on a Saturday or Sunday, it's kind of been a toss-up in the Brad Underwood era. And I don't know the exact stat. I want to say they were 0-8 in this spot when they played Iowa. I want to say that it was that, like an 11 a.m. tip on a Saturday or a Sunday. I don't know the exact stat, but I saw it somewhere, and I wish I could credit it. And I wish I could go find it because I don't exactly remember where I saw it, but they're just not good in that early tip on a weekend in January. It's actually very, like, kind of crazy to think about. But they go into Iowa City. They played a great first half. Second half, they started off hot as well. They were rolling early second half. Iowa eventually makes its run because that's, of course they are. They're at home. They're going to have some pride, right? And Illinois still somehow finds a way to pull it out. And I think it was a gritty road win. Was the second half perfect? No. Were there concerns that came from it? Yes. Did they make some dumb mistakes that allowed Iowa to even come back into the game? Yes. But overall, you can't complain about winning a Big Ten road game. You really can't, because it's so hard to do, especially against a team like Iowa, who I think they're a tournament team as of today. Yeah. Maybe not. I think they are. But to go with that, Iowa was coming off a loss to Minnesota. They had went to Minnesota and didn't play very well. And I watched that game. Minnesota ends up winning as an underdog at home. And so I thought Iowa was going to come out extra motivated against Illinois, and they couldn't make anything to start that game. Illinois came out hot, and their defense was rolling. It looked like Illinois was going to win by 1,000 points. But, offensive regression, they didn't make every single three they took in the second half. And again, they made some mistakes. But the big thing for me that I took away from the Iowa game I thought it was a great character building win, because last year's team loses that game. Last year's team has that kind of first half, and then when things aren't going perfectly right, they blow the game because they're young, they're inexperienced. KJ's turned the ball over 7 times, and their defense is just all over the place, and they're jacking up 1,000 threes and shooting 20%. Something about yesterday or Sunday's win at Iowa gave me a little extra boost in confidence, for future road games. Like that, they're going to go to Northwestern tomorrow, and I know Northwestern isn't as good as they've been the last couple of years, but Chris Collins is going to have his team ready for this game. Like, he's going to get them up for this game. They will be ready to play Illinois tomorrow, and they will give them their best shot, right? But you got Purdue in like a week and a half, and you got to go to Purdue. And going into Iowa City and winning a game like that, it gives me some confidence that they can go to Purdue and not only hang around, but legitimately give them a run. One of the as fun as the Brad Underwood era has been, it hasn't been fun against Purdue. And even though they beat Purdue last year, we can all make a strong argument that it was kind of fluky. They didn't necessarily deserve to win the game. A win over Purdue is like winning the Super Bowl. Would I say beating Purdue is my Super Bowl sometimes? I'll admittedly say it. Yeah. It's nice when we beat Purdue, considering how much of a premier program they have became this decade under Matt Painter. But I also think teams that beat Illinois, they probably think the same thing. So we got 2 of the best programs in the Big Ten facing off here in a couple of weeks, and Illinois is doing exactly, to this point, doing exactly what I asked them to do. After they lost to Nebraska, and after they beat Mizzou by 1,000 points, we went over the schedule in one of the recent shows, and I was like, can we win 7 straight going into Purdue? Can we win 7 straight going into Purdue? I think that was the number. I'm bringing up the schedule right now. You beat Mizzou on the 22nd, so that's 1, 2, after you beat Southern, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 8. Yeah, 8 games before Purdue. From the moment from the Nebraska game to that game, there's 8 games. So they are currently on game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tomorrow will be, or hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, tomorrow's game will be game number 6 of 8 before they face Purdue. And I just think that the Iowa game was such a builder, a character building win. And you just kind of hope that they're I don't want to say I want them to be playing their best basketball by the time they play Purdue. It's still only January, but Brad Underwood teams always play well in January. And I want to make a statement. I want to make a statement to the Big Ten. And no one's like, people are talking about Illinois. People are talking about Illinois as like that frisky, like, oh, this is the sleeper team in the NCAA tournament that everyone's going to take that will be cooked in the first or second round. And it annoys me because I feel like people say that about Illinois every year, just based off the talent is on their team. This team has shown that they can go out and beat anyone on any given night. And they have won tough games, and they have had games where they've got a lead, they give it up, but they still pull it out. I just think this team has a lot of grit and has a lot of moxie to it that gives me probably the most confidence going into a game against Purdue in a couple weeks that I've had probably since the IO days. Yeah, they played a really close game against Purdue with Coleman Hawkins and TSJ. That game was brutal. But yeah, man, like they have, I would say, since the IO days, that I feel as confident. When Io DeSumo and Kofi Coburn were here, that was probably as confident as I've ever been, them going up against Purdue. And that's how I feel about this team. So we're going to see. They got a couple games before they get there, but got time to build, keep growing, all the good stuff. So a few more things about the Iowa game. I would just say that Keaton Wagler just continues to amaze me. I think that's like number one for me. He continues to amaze me. He had like 14 or 16 points in the second half of that game. He finished with 19, 5 and 4. And I mentioned earlier, like one of the newest mock drafts or big boards or whatever had him like top 15 going into the NBA draft. Like, I mean, I think it's pretty clear now, especially if he keeps playing the way he's playing. Like, this guy's going to be a one and done, and like no one thought we were going to get that. It's like, I don't know if we'll ever see a development like this ever again. Like, it's quite unbelievable what he's doing, but he deserves so much credit, and Illinois deserves so much credit for, you know, finding him and giving him, you know, the opportunity, you know. 4 of 7 from 3, hit some big threes in that game, especially in the second half when Iowa made that run. He hit one particular 3-point shot, kind of like in an isolation type situation, pick and roll, and it kind of slowed the momentum down. But he's I think he's, I don't want to say he's the leader of the team because he's a freshman. I think Kylan is the leader of the team, but there were moments where they just gave Keaton the ball and like he would just go and make something happen. And I just think that is not a development that I expected this year at all. And it's just incredible of what we're watching from him. Andre Stojakovic, 17 points. He had 13 in the first half. He was a big part of why they had led by 11 at halftime. He was a big part of that. 3-point shooting is still a struggle for him. 1 of 5 doesn't make any sense considering his dad, but you know, maybe he figures that out as he gets older. But this season, I think it's pretty clear this guy's just not going to be any form of an elite 3-point shooter, which I think most people understand at this point. But I guess that's something he for sure needs to work on, especially if he wants to go to the league. But I just thought his ability to get downhill, his ability to get the free throw line. How many times did he go to the free throw line? He went to the free throw line twice. He went 2 of 3, but he 7 of 16 from the field. And I just think that he took good shots. And there were times where it felt like maybe he forced some, especially in the second half because he quieted down in the second half. But, you know, a lot of the narrative around Stojakovic is like it feels like other teams would try and let him do his thing and kind of take everyone else out. And that's kind of how the first half went, but Illinois was winning by 11. So I feel like that game kind of quieted that narrative down a little bit. I was reading a really good article from Illini Inquirer about him. And there's a quote from Brad Underwood on him and being him being a great teammate. He said, quote, "He's bought in for a young man who's missed 7 weeks of practice. He's bought in defensively at a really high rate, and he's bought in to be an unbelievable teammate. You put him, Keaton, Kylan together, you've got 3 pretty strong defenders now. That's what the young man needs to do. He's a proven scorer, but he's a guy that doesn't have to do that. He's becoming a guy that's turning into a pretty good all-around player." Yeah, once this guy figures out a 3-point shot, man, he could be a real weapon, you know? So I think that, you know, non-conference season for him, he was kind of inconsistent. He had some bad games. He had some good games. His best game, I feel like he's given us was probably against Alabama. Unfortunately, they lost that game. There's probably another game in there that I'm missing, but this was probably one of his better games though against Iowa. especially because of that first half. And I just really felt like he set the tone. Illinois was getting to the basket at ease. They shot 3 of 12 in the first half from the 3-point line. But it didn't matter because they were able to get into the paint any way they wanted. They ended up shooting 49% from the field, 10 of 28 from three. So they ended up making 7 threes in the second half. And they needed all of them considering how Iowa came back. Iowa only shoots 41%. So Illinois' defense in this month has just been really good. You can say, well, the competition hasn't been nearly as good, but I mean, a month ago, we were all talking about how this team doesn't play any like a defense. So I think in many ways, you can certainly make an argument that something flipped after the Nebraska game. So we'll see if they can keep it up against Northwestern tomorrow. I think that they will. As far as anyone else from this particular game, I've mentioned Big Z, 8 points, only 2 rebounds, but he hit 2 threes in this particular game. He only played 15 minutes. Tommy played 20. I guess if you combine the two, he had 8. Tommy had 7, so 15 points combined between the two. That's fine. I would love to see, like, at worst, I feel like for Illinois to beat a really good team, a great team, you're going to need both of those guys to combine for 20 to 25 points, in my opinion. But the rebounding, it's so like Jekyll and Hyde. It feels like, Tommy, 2 rebounds, Zvonimir, 2 rebounds, but he's had good rebounding games of late. So whatever. I just feel like they both need to rebound the ball more. And the good news is that other guys are rebounding the ball. And maybe that's why they don't have as many rebounds. Illinois had 38 rebounds. Iowa had 31. So they out-rebounded them as a team. And I've been so hard on Big T. And I think it's just because I had higher expectations for him this year. And he just hasn't got there. And like I said in the last episode, I hope he's playing his best basketball by March, because I know he's had the injuries. He had tonsillitis and all this and that. But they're going to need more consistency. 3 turnovers from Tommy in this game too, yeah, but Merck had 12, so like Merck is always kind of down there doing that dirty work. He's such an annoyance to the other team. I would really love to know how opposing fan bases feel about David Mirkovic at this point. Like, are people talking trash about him on whatever? I could just name a school, like we can name a rival, like you think Purdue or Michigan fans are talking about Merck yet, even though they haven't faced him. I just feel like he's a guy that I would absolutely hate if he wasn't on my team. He just kind of has this like, I don't want to say like Joakim Noah, but like he just maybe it's his face, maybe it's just because he's on the floor a lot and he's just kind of moving around in a way that's maybe not aesthetically pleasing. And I notice it and I'm like, but he's on my team, so it's kind of like fun, I feel like other teams, fan bases, he's a guy that you want to name a player on Illinois that people don't like, it's him. I'd love to know how people feel about that. Let me know in the comments. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have about that game. I would say, Kylan had 17 points as well, 1 of 5 from 3, but 7 of 13 overall, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He had a big rebound late in the game to keep a possession alive. The guy's just a winner, man. Guy's just a winner. So I said that earlier, and yeah. So now 5 straight wins going into Northwestern tomorrow. Chris Collins going to have the boys ready at Welsh Ryan Arena, this high school arena, basically. And I call it a high school arena because they charge way too much for tickets for Illinois and Northwestern, for Northwestern being like a pretty mid Big Ten team on a regular basis. In their best years is like they go into the tournament as like a 7 seed. And they'll win like one game and, that's it, like, and I like Chris Collins. I think he's a great coach. He's a great coach for a program that doesn't invest more into their basketball program, which I don't understand why not. And their basketball arena it's nice, it's fine, but it's just not big enough, and that is why they charge so much money for tickets, and that annoys me. So there's my rant for the night. They they play at 7:30 tomorrow. 7:30 tomorrow on the Big Ten Network. Northwestern 8-8 coming into this game. I watched their game against Minnesota recently. When they played in Minnesota, they played Minnesota on the 3rd, and then they went to Michigan State, lost by 10 there, and then they went to Rutgers and they lost in overtime. And then what did I just say about Rutgers? They're one of the worst, like the worst team in the Big Ten, in my opinion. I know it's on the road. I know that recent games at Northwestern haven't exactly gone your way, but as I've stated before and after certain games already this season, this team is too talented and too experienced to go to Evanston tomorrow and lose. It would be a bad loss if you go to Northwestern and lose tomorrow. Like, bad might not even explain it. It would be a horrific loss if you go to Northwestern and lose. It just will be. Northwestern, they're going to be motivated because they've lost, 3 in a row, right? But I know it's a rivalry game, this and that. They're 8-8, man. They're 8-8. They haven't won a game this month. They've lost 3 in a row. Their last win was against Howard on December 30th. Their best win. Trying to find it. Their best win probably against South Carolina. I don't know, man. Maybe DePaul. I don't know how good DePaul is this year. They played close with Virginia, who beat Louisville tonight, but they lost to Virginia. Like they don't got. Again, they're 8-8. They're not good. Illinois should win this game tomorrow. And what they got to do is either force Nick Martinelli to score all the points and let anyone else score points, or let everyone else score points and don't let Martinelli score points, because Martinelli is good. As we learned last year, he killed Illinois at their house last year. Martinelli did. So I'm curious what the game plan is with him. For me, I would do what they've done in the past, where they go back to the Texas Tech game and where they let Toppin just score all those points down low, but they didn't really let anyone else beat them. I don't mind that approach against this Northwestern team, because you have enough depth, you have enough scoring threat. Yeah, that to me, that's what I would do. So we'll see. I trust whatever game plan they have, but bottom line, can't lose this game. You just can't. So, that's that. I did want to mention before we get out of here, as of today, Illinois' number 7 in KenPom. They are behind Gonzaga, Vanderbilt, Purdue, Iowa State, Arizona, and Michigan. Now, Michigan, I don't know if you guys got to check out that game against Wisconsin on, what was it, Sunday? I think it was Sunday. It was Saturday or Sunday. It was actually Saturday. I remember watching it. I live bet Wisconsin early second half, and then I took the money line a few minutes later. Hell of a run. Hell of a run if you're a degenerate. Listen, Wisconsin made all these big shots and all this and that. The reason Wisconsin won that game is because they made 15 threes. Because they couldn't stop Michigan. They couldn't stop them at all. Like, Wisconsin had a hell of a day from outside, and that is how they beat Michigan. So I say that because Illinois is going to eventually have to face them. I think Illinois has a better defense than Wisconsin, but it's just something to note. Like, sure, Michigan got upset at home by Wisconsin, fine. But I don't necessarily think Michigan played bad. That maybe their defense wasn't good enough because they allowed like 90 some points to Wisconsin. So I of course they lost the game. There's problems there, but when you think about how Illinois can beat Michigan later in the year, all I could think about while watching it is like Illinois can't have an off shooting night against this team. They have so many weapons. And their size is I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see that matchup. I don't really know what to say other than that. Illinois will be at home when they face them, and that'll be a plus for them. But man, it's going to be a fun one to watch if you like offense, in my opinion. So yeah, again, Illinois number 7 in KenPom. You can look up the net rankings real quick. Last time I checked, they were 10. They were 10th in the country in net ranking. As of today, they're still 10 in the net ranking behind BYU, UConn, Vanderbilt, Purdue, Gonzaga, Duke, Iowa State, Arizona, and Michigan. So not much has changed. Illinois 3rd in offensive efficiency and 18th in defensive efficiency, top 20 in 2 important statistics. Yeah, man, they I think they're setting themselves up to be a top 3 seed. Right now, I would say Illinois is a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. And if they can beat Purdue and Michigan, or just one of the two, they're setting themselves up to possibly be a 2 seed. That's if, and that includes if they don't have any bad losses, which to me, they don't have any bad losses right now. So we'll see, but they're number 13 in the AP if you give a shit about that. But you win tomorrow, you got Minnesota, you got Maryland, win those games. By the time you go face Purdue, you could be finding yourself in the top 10, depending on what other teams do. Could be, but I don't really care too much about the rankings anymore, considering I just think they're not correct ever. But yeah, looking at the chat here, my guy Lazy Forrest Gump. How's it going? Again, if you got any thoughts, drop them. If you're listening to this not live, try and go through and reply to some of you guys this week. But big game tomorrow against Northwestern, just in terms of, not having that letdown against a team that you shouldn't. And we'll see what happens. Lazy Forrest Gump. Keaton looks like freshman SGA at Kentucky. I can see that. One of the things that Brad says about Keaton a lot is just like that he doesn't play like a freshman. And he was so right about how much Ayo Dosunmu is in him, except the fact that he can shoot. Like Ayo was more of a mid-range guy. Like he could hit that 3 every now and then, but he was more of a mid-range guy in college, dude. Keaton can shoot it from. He's not shooting it from 40 feet. He's not Bennett Sturts. It's not Bennett Sturts trying to play hero ball on Sunday. But yeah, man, like this guy can shoot the ball, and it's a huge factor into how Illinois has success on offense, because he hits a couple threes and it just forcing the other opposing team's defense to kind of play even tighter up on him, and how they play pick and rolls and stuff like that. So, Andre's buy-in is a difference maker. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Considering he was like the guy at Stanford and Cal, like for him to come to Illinois and kind of just be like, what is he, the third option? Would you say he's the third option? I'd say he's the third option. Like, and be fine with that. Like, it shows how much he wants to win. And that's cool. I love to see that. So, all right. Well, I've yapped for about 35 minutes, so I will let you all go. For if you're coming to watch this, and it's not live, you're watching the replay. I appreciate y'all's support. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe. About 70 subscribers away from 1,000. And I know I haven't done as many shows this season. It's just life and my situation right now. So it is what it is. They got Northwestern tomorrow, and then they got Minnesota, I think, on Sunday. I think it's Sunday or it's Saturday. They got Minnesota on Saturday, another 11 a.m. tip. So I'm going to be in Milwaukee this weekend. So probably do a show on Monday. The next show will probably be next Monday. So we'll see. Maybe if I had some time tomorrow, maybe I can come on and yap for 20 minutes after the game. We'll see. I won't promise anything, but anyway, I'm done yapping. I appreciate y'all's support. Let's win. Let's win by 1,000 tomorrow. But to me, that's just what you do. Shut down Martinelli, or let him score all the points, but don't let anyone else score points. And let's beat Northwestern. The last handful of games that they've had at Northwestern have been agonizing. I mean, I was at the game where Terrence Shannon Jr. came back from the suspension, his first game after suspension. One of the wildest experiences I've ever had at a sporting event. One of the craziest times. And since that game, I've definitely grown some disdain for Northwestern. So even more disdain, at least, even though it's kind of hard to have some considering we've owned this rivalry like literally forever, but whatever. So yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I will see you all in the next episode. ILL. Love you guys.